In this lesson, we will learn how to bind geometry to joints in Maya. Binding is the process of connecting an object's shape to follow the transformations of an influence object. Typically, that influence object would be a joint, but you could also skin to geometry as well. That's pretty exciting because then you could start to build muscle systems this way. And you can learn more about that and building custom muscles in Maya. And we have other courses that cover that process because, again, you can do some really fun things with geometry that we can't really do with joints. So what we'll do is go ahead and just focus on joints here because we want to create a very rigid bind in this case. We want rigid deformations. That way we can stay true to the type of material this geometry is supposed to be made out of, this metal material, right? So here's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and grab the geometry that we would like to skin, and then we will shift select the joint that we'd like to skin it to. So in this case, it's going to be our ball joint here of the left leg. Let's go ahead and skin to our thigh bone. Now with everything selected, we can then head over to Skin and choose Smooth Bind. We'll go to our option box. Let's go ahead and reset our settings. The only thing we need to change here is our bind to method. We need to switch this to selected joints. That way, Maya is not going to skin to the entire joint hierarchy because that would be pointless, right? We want a rigid bind, so we just want to make sure we're skinning to just one joint for each piece. Now, I would like to point out that Maya has a really cool new bind method known as geodesic voxel. It essentially takes your entire mesh and it voxelizes it into one form, and then it starts to distribute weight afterwards. So it's a layered process until you get a really nice looking result. And the great thing about this is it works great even if we're working with geometry that is made up of several pieces. So we can have intersecting pieces. We can also use geometry that has a non-manifold form. So super exciting stuff. And you can learn more about this in our indie game development series. Just focus on the boss section of that course, rigging an animation of the boss character, and you'll learn how to use this option. Really helpful. All right, so what we'll do now is go ahead and make sure that this ball joint of our geometry follows the thigh joint we have selected. Let's go ahead and click apply. And now watch this. As we start to take that joint and rotate it, you can see that the ball joint of the mesh will now follow. Fantastic. Now let's go ahead and continue this process until we have skinned the rest of the leg. So we'll go ahead and grab our geometry, we'll shift select our joint and click apply. Now also notice this, if we were to grab, let's say, the joint first, so I'll go ahead and grab the shin and then select the next ball joint. You'll notice that when we go ahead and apply our smooth bind, that Maya knows what a joint is and what geometry is. The only time this gets confusing is when we are skinning to geometry. We need to select things in the right order. So that order would be the object that needs to be bound and then the influence object. Sweet, so we can now go ahead and grab the shin and we can start to rotate that and take a look at how the rest of the leg follows. Very nice, right? Let's go ahead and work on the toes, which would be the last step for this leg. So we'll go ahead and grab the front toe. We'll go ahead and shift select the geometry here and apply a bind. Well, take a look at that. We have an error here. It says it's already connected to a skin cluster. Well, how's that possible? Well, if you notice, when we selected the shin, the toe is parented to this object. Same thing goes for the back toe. So in order for us to make sure that we can skin to the right joint, we'll need to disconnect the skin on this object. So let's do that. With this selected, we'll go in and choose Skin, Detach Skin. So now it's no longer tied to that skin cluster as this geometry is, and the one after it. Let's go ahead and grab the back toe and do the same thing. So we'll go ahead and choose Skin, Detach Skin. Now, let's go ahead and skin the toes. So we'll go ahead and grab the toe bone, we'll grab the geometry and choose Apply. Sweet. Let's go ahead and rotate the shin. All right, that looks good. Let's now go ahead and rotate the toe. Fantastic. So everything is working just fine now. So we can go ahead and bring the leg up. We can now go ahead and bring our toe up and start to rotate. Sweet. So we need to do the same thing for the back toe. Let's go ahead and grab the bone object, grab the geometry, and choose apply. Let's test this out. So again, we can go ahead and start by rotating the shin. Fantastic. And now let's go ahead and rotate the toe bone. Sweet. All right, so in this lesson, we have learned how to not only skin objects, we've also learned how to detach the skin of an object if we need to. So what I'll do is go ahead and leave the right side up to you because we're using the exact same steps. Again, just go in, grab the geometry, and then grab the joint, choose apply, or you can grab the joint first and then the geometry and choose apply. But either way, when we start to now move the center of gravity, you'll notice that our geometry will now start to follow. And keep in mind, we're driving the shape. We're not actually driving the transforms of the geometry itself. It's almost like we have taken the vertices of our geometry and we've parented them to follow these joints. Because you'll notice that when we go through and we select our geometry, let's take the toe for example, you can see where its pivot point is, exactly where it started from. So it's not the transform node of this object that we are driving, it's just its shape. Sweet, so I'll go ahead and take the center of gravity and I'll go ahead and zero out the control to bring it right back to our neutral position, and that's going to be it for this lesson. So I'll leave the other pieces on the right leg up to you, and we'll go ahead and learn how to set up our joint chain for the arms in the next lesson.